You know that sinking feeling when hours pass and he still hasn't texted back? When you catch yourself replaying every conversation in your head, wondering if you said something wrong? It's easy to think the silence is about you, but sometimes the way someone ignores you says far more about them, their priorities, their respect, and their emotional maturity. Today, we're discussing exactly why his lack of attention might be waving a giant red flag. So stay till the end, because missing these signs could cost you your time and maybe even your sanity. Ignoring you isn't just how guys are. All right, so there's a narrative that's been recycled for decades. Men are just bad at communication. And sure, some people, regardless of gender, might not be glued to their phones or might have different texting habits. But that's very different from consistently making someone wait, leaving them hanging or going silent without explanation. Think about it. This is the same person who can post a meme to his group chat within seconds, play online games with his friends for hours, or comment on Instagram stories in real time. So the "I'm just not good at texting" excuse falls apart when you realize he's capable of engaging, just not with you. When we normalize this, we unconsciously teach ourselves to lower our standards. Instead of thinking, "Why isn't he trying?" we start asking, "Am I asking too much?" That mindset is dangerous because it's the first step toward accepting less than the bare minimum in a relationship. The chase game and power imbalance. Some men treat communication like currency, spending it sparingly so its value feels higher. This isn't about them being genuinely unavailable. It's about controlling the pace of the relationship. By keeping you waiting, they create the illusion that their time is rare and therefore more desirable. It's a subtle but effective power play. You find yourself leaning in, trying harder, sending the first text more often, or overcompensating with extra enthusiasm when he does respond. Before long, you're chasing, and he's coasting. A healthy connection doesn't rely on this artificial scarcity. Someone who genuinely likes you wants to close the gap, not widen it. They don't ration affection like it's a limited resource. They give it freely because they want you to feel secure. If his attention feels like something you have to constantly earn, then sorry to say, but that's not romance. When ignoring is emotional neglect. Text messages are just one layer. Emotional neglect can happen in person too. It's when you share something important and he's distracted, scrolling, or giving half-hearted responses. You tell him about a rough day at work and he doesn't look up from his phone and just mutters, "That sucks," before changing the subject. This kind of neglect is corrosive. Over time, you stop opening up because you've learned your words don't land anywhere. And that distance becomes the new normal. Less laughter, less sharing, less intimacy. What's tricky is that emotional neglect doesn't always come from malice. It can come from either laziness or being emotionally unavailable. But the effect is the same. You feel unseen. And when your partner makes you feel invisible, that's a sign the relationship's foundation is already cracking. The busy myth. We live in an age where everyone's calendar looks like a jigsaw puzzle. Meetings, commutes, workouts, family obligations. But the truth is, busy is rarely the real reason someone can't reply. It's about priority. He's too busy to reply to your message. But you watch him upload a vacation photo and like 3 of his friends' posts. When someone cares, they find micro moments, a quick "thinking of you" text, a voice note on the walk to the car, a 2-minute call before bed. These tiny gestures require no perfect timing, no empty schedule. If "I'm just too busy" becomes the default excuse, it's worth asking yourself, does he want to make time for me? Or does he just want the benefits of a relationship without the responsibility of showing up? Because relationships aren't built in grand gestures alone. They're built in those small, everyday check-ins that remind you you're important. If you've ever sat staring at your phone, wondering why he can make time for everyone but you, it starts to feel like he's testing you, seeing how long you'll wait before you break the silence. But sometimes, the silence isn't about him being busy at all. In fact, there's a reason for it that's far more calculated and a lot more dangerous than you think. Silence as a test. Yes, sometimes silence is deliberate. It's used as a way to gauge your reaction. Will you double text? Will you spiral? Will you drop your boundaries and give more to win him back? This is where it turns from passive neglect to active manipulation. People who use silence as a test are trying to measure their control over you. And if you respond by chasing, they've learned you'll tolerate their absence without consequence. Healthy partners don't test you like this. They trust that consistent communication builds connection, and they don't see affection as a game to be won or lost. How it affects your self-worth. Being ignored doesn't just sting in the moment. It starts to reprogram the way you view yourself. You begin questioning if you're asking for too much, if you're too needy, or if you've somehow become unworthy of simple, consistent attention. That self-doubt is dangerous because it pushes you to downplay your needs just to avoid scaring him off. This is exactly how toxic dynamics take root. Instead of his effort rising to meet your standard quietly drops to meet his lack of effort. The relationship becomes one-sided, and you convince yourself it's normal. Over time, you forget what it feels like to be valued and prioritized. And to be honest, the right person doesn't make you decode mixed signals or sit in uncertainty. They remove the question marks. They show up consistently because they want to, not because you've chased them into it. When ignoring becomes a habit, patterns will always reveal more than promises. If ignoring you becomes a regular occurrence outside of genuine emergencies, it's no longer a slip-up. It's his standard operating mode. And here's the thing. People are often at their most attentive in the early stages. If his best behavior still includes long silences, imagine how disengaged he'll be once he's comfortable. This is why paying attention to early patterns matters so much. Communication habits, or the lack of them, are rarely temporary, unless there's an intentional effort to change. A man who values you will work to keep the energy steady, not just during the honeymoon phase, but throughout the relationship. If you're feeling neglected early on, it's usually a preview, not a phase. And holding on in the hope that things will go back to how they were often means waiting for something that was never actually there. The double standard trap. Now, have you ever noticed how some guys can take hours or even days to reply? But if you don't answer within the hour, suddenly it's an issue? This is a power imbalance rooted in ego. They've decided they're allowed to set the rhythm, but you're expected to be on call. The unspoken rule is, their time is valuable. Yours is flexible. And when you disrupt that comfort zone, they take it personally. This is entitlement disguised as preference. Relationships should operate on mutual respect, not one-sided rules. If you find yourself apologizing for simply matching their response time, that's a red flag you've been conditioned into accepting less. Love can't thrive in an environment where one person's needs always outweigh the other's. And we're not saying equality is about splitting bills or chores. It's more about respecting each other's time, effort, and boundaries. That's what's important. The difference between space and neglect. Space is healthy. It's what allows people to recharge, process their thoughts, and maintain their individuality in a relationship. But space only works when it's communicated clearly. A simple, "I've had a rough day. Can we talk tomorrow?" shows respect for both your needs and theirs. That's setting a boundary while still acknowledging the relationship. Neglect, however, is silence without context. It leaves you hanging, unsure if they're busy, upset, or losing interest. That lack of clarity breeds insecurity and makes you question your place in their life. The problem isn't space itself, it's when space becomes a convenient cover for disappearing without accountability. The healthiest partners understand the difference. They give you reassurance even when they need distance. Neglect takes without giving. Space creates room while keeping the connection intact. One builds trust, the other erodes it. What you should do if it happens to you. First, take a step back and breathe. Don't jump straight into self-blame. His silence is a choice, not an unavoidable accident. Second, be honest about how it makes you feel. You don't need to send a novel, but a simple, "When you go silent, it makes me feel unimportant," is direct and clear. His response to that is your answer. If he's open to fixing it, there's a chance to rebuild. If he dismisses you, minimizes it, or flips it back on you, he's telling you this is the best he's willing to do. Finally, protect your energy. If you keep lowering your boundaries to match his lack of effort, you'll end up drained, not loved. Hold your standard. The right man will meet it without you having to beg. Being ignored might seem small at the moment, but it's often the symptom of a bigger problem. And when someone shows you they can't give you the things you deserve, you have two choices: wait and hope, or walk away and make room for someone who will. If this video opened your eyes to patterns you've been overlooking, hit like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who might need the same reminder. And for more honest conversations about love, dating, and self-worth, hit that subscribe button. You'll want to be here for the next one. See you in the next video.